Have we been sold a lie? They put it in our water and our toothpaste, and they say it's good for our teeth. But what is it really causing? Follow me down the rabbit hole about fluoride. Hello, friends. Welcome back to the rabbit hole. I'm your host, Danny, and today we are talking about fluoride. This has been requested. It was Krista actually sent 3 requests. So she sent the request about CERN. She sent this request about fluoride. She sent another request about flat Earth. So if I do that one, I have reached out to the Flat Earth Society to see if they would come on my podcast because it would be better to hear from the experts. But I have not heard back. I've sent multiple requests, so I think that I might just have to cover it by myself. So, Krista, if you're listening, I will cover Flat Earth eventually when I'm, when I'm brave enough to do that. Let's get into it. So, fluoride. Let's go to the history of fluoride. That way you kind of understand where it comes from, what we're doing with it. So, fluoride wasn't always added to our water supply, obviously. It started as an experiment in Grand Rapids, Michigan. So on January 25th, 1945, sodium fluoride was first dissolved into the water supply. And for about a year prior to this, children in schools had undergone oral examinations. They wanted to just see how much the fluoride was going to affect the oral health of children. The Public Health Service scientists observed a significant decrease in tooth decay among the children, much faster actually than they anticipated. So then, because of how successful it was, Muskegon, Michigan, which was actually the control city, so they didn't put any fluoride in Muskegon. They were like, we want the fluoride in our water because it's having such fantastic effects with the children in Grand Rapids. But the question I had when I was researching that part is I was like, why did they think that fluoride would help teeth? What in their mind was yep, fluoride, we'll just go ahead and throw it in the water and see what happens. Well, so then I went digging because it's a rabbit hole podcast. So I went down the rabbit hole of fluoride and why do we even use it? So in 1901, so way back at the beginning of the century, Dr. Charles Mackay traveled to Colorado Springs and noticed that they had disgusting brown spots on their teeth, but they did not have tooth decay. He was moving from the East Coast to Colorado Springs to begin his dentistry career. And in 1909, Dr. Mackay invited dental researcher Dr. Black to Colorado Springs to help him investigate this issue referred to as the Colorado brown stain. Since Dr. Black was a dental researcher, it would have been more of in his realm to do this research. However, Dr. Black died only 15 years later, and Dr. Mackay continued the research much longer than that. Dr. Black actually never helped figure out what was causing these brown stains on the teeth. And he was super skeptical before he ever actually went out to Colorado Springs. He was like, yeah, I don't know about this. I think that you're just full of baloney. And then he got out there and he was like, nope, Dr. McKay's onto something. So they discovered that the brown stain only affected those whose teeth were not yet calcified. So this affected children more and people who had grown up in the area because they had been exposed to before the calcification of their teeth. Up until this point, locals had theories as to why the teeth turned brown. Some thought it was because they ate too much pork or the milk they drank wasn't pure. Others thought that maybe it was because of too much calcium in the water. And Black didn't think any of these local theories had merit, but Mackay thought the water theory might be onto something. I think that locally they were like, oh, you're a pork eater, and made fun of those people, or they thought that maybe poor people who couldn't afford good milk got brown stains. I don't know, but I think they kind of used it as a bad thing, where we're gonna learn that it was just because they were drinking a lot of water. So Mackay finally had a breakthrough, kind of. In 1923, he was called to Oakley, Idaho, and by this point, Black was dead. So Mackay was called to Oakley, Idaho to meet with parents who had noticed brown stains on their kids' teeth. The stains began appearing after the water pipe was constructed to a warm spring about 5 miles away, Although McKay's analysis of the water didn't lead him to anything. So he did a water analysis. He was like, I don't know, like, seems fine. So he basically instructed the town to abandon the water pipe because obviously, like, something's weird with it, which, like, anybody could have deducted, and use, like, a different nearby spring. So don't use that spring now. Use this other spring, and don't use that water pipe either, because he didn't know, like, is it the pipe? Is it the spring? He didn't know. And that did the trick. A few years later, the children were getting healthy secondary teeth with no brown stains. So obviously something's up with the water. He just didn't know what yet. McKay had the exact same findings in another town in Arkansas, but the difference there was that an aluminum company was based out of that city, and McKay had published his findings about the brown stains in the water, and that something in the water is probably causing this. Well, the aluminum company was worried that people would turn away from aluminum cookware if they thought that the brown stains were coming from them. So they were like, this is bad for business. So they did their own water testing. But aluminum companies typically have a lot of money, or like companies in general. So they did like more in-depth testing. They used photospectrographic analysis, which McKay had not used. And it came back that the water had high levels of fluoride. The aluminum company obviously sent the results to McKay in January of 1931. McKay was like, oh my gosh, like I didn't even know this. So he took samples from Oakley and from Colorado Springs and found the exact same result, that high levels of fluoride in the water must be the problem. Well, fluoride occurs naturally in rock and soil and in places that are pulling their water from Rocky Mountains, no pun intended. They were going to have naturally occurring fluoride. And if you don't know, like in Arkansas, it's pretty rocky, and I mean, there's not really full mountains like there are in Colorado Springs or in Idaho, but it's definitely very rocky and hilly, and a lot of their water is coming from springs in the rocks. If you've never been to Arkansas, now you know. But this realization about the fluoride started to like come up with all these other questions. So, like, how much fluoride will cause coloration, but, like, will prevent the tooth decay? They were very concerned about, like, they still liked the fact that their teeth were good, but they were brown. So, don't want to have brown teeth. You want to have really good, strong teeth. So, the doctor behind these fluoride studies was Dr. Trendley Dean, and he came up with this hypothesis, and that's where testing in Grand Rapids kind of started in 1945. After 15 years of monitoring the school children in Grand Rapids, they came up with the conclusion that putting fluoride in the water as like a controlled amount would help with tooth decay. And they figured out exactly like how much and what to do. So now I know what you're thinking. How is this a conspiracy? Well, the problem was that they didn't actually test to see if fluoride affected people in any other ways. They're just like, yep, it prevents tooth decay. Too much of it causes discoloration, like brown stains on your teeth. Although that should have been a red flag right there, that like too much fluoride is causing some weird thing to happen that you can physically see. Like, shouldn't we do some more research into this? But no, they're like, yeah, it's cool because it prevents tooth decay. But now, because they put fluoride in our water, they are poisoning us. But they don't think that they are. I mean, okay, that's not true, because at the end of this episode, we're going to get into the fact that they know that they are. So, according to fluoridealert.org, fluoride is like the new lead. Fluoridealert.org or Fluoride Action Network, they're the same thing, is a website and community that is against the fluoridation of our water. And there is a lot of good information against fluoride there. If you want to like educate yourself as to why fluoride is bad, I will include a lot of their information here, but there's so much information on their website, and it's all research, it's all backed. They have all their sources. They do lots of studies. They find the studies. They do the work. So it's not like one of those websites where you're like, oh, they're against whatever, but they have no evidence. No, Fluoride Action Networks, they're out there, they're doing the work, and they're filing lawsuits against like counties and states and the government. They are doing everything that they possibly can to save people from fluoride toxicity. As of 2022, 73% of the United States had a fluoridated water system. So the states with the most fluoridation are Kentucky at 99.8%. And imagine that 0.2% is people on wells. Minnesota, Illinois, North Dakota, and Virginia were the top 5. And the states with the least fluoridation are, in order from most to least, is Idaho, Montana, Oregon, New Jersey, and Hawaii. Hawaii only being 8.8% fluoridated. So if you live in Hawaii, you're okay. You're doing all right, unless your county adds fluoride to your water. And the FDA now requires a poison warning on all fluoride toothpastes sold in the U.S. So if that doesn't tell you that something's wrong with fluoride, I don't know what does. There are several health concerns when it comes to fluoride, things they didn't take into consideration before saying it's totally okay for everyone to ingest. And fluoride is more toxic than lead, but it's only slightly less toxic than arsenic. So just so you know what we're working with here, it's not good for you. This is why it has long been used to kill rodents and insects. Think about that for a second. They put fluoride in rodenticides and pesticides and in our toothpaste and water supply. So they're going to kill rats and insects and pests and all that with the same thing that they're saying is totally safe for our teeth and our children to ingest. Cool. So the issue right now isn't the acute toxicity, which we're going to get from fluoride, but the chronic toxicity. So this is like the long-term effects on the body that fluoride is having. So we're going to go through a whole bunch of these. So sit tight, guys, because if you were scared about fluoride before, up until this point, it's going to get worse. And again, all of this can be found on fluorideaction.org. And that's linked in the show notes, of course. I didn't link each individual article because there are so many on that website. I linked just like the homepage. You guys should go and explore that website on your own. So the first of these, and they're in alphabetical order, arthritis. So the evidence is showing that some people who have been diagnosed with arthritis are actually just suffering from low-grade fluoride poisoning, which makes me wonder, if they stopped ingesting fluoride, would their arthritis get better? Or is it like a permanent thing? I don't know much about arthritis. Bone fractures. So high doses of fluoride is known to cause bone issues. Millions of people around the world are suffering from debilitating bone diseases called skeletal fluorosis. And as we know from the history, fluoride is causing discoloration in teeth, which is a bone. So what else is it causing, right? Like you can physically see that discoloration. So you have to assume that it's having an effect on everything else that uses calcium in your body. Attempts to use fluoride as an experimental treatment for osteoporosis resulted in more fractures because back in the day, they thought that fluoride would cause less fractures and that it should be used to treat osteoporosis, which is a bone issue. And so they did. They were like, yeah, here, take a bunch of fluoride. And then they're like, oh, shit, like you guys got more fractures. We thought maybe it would slow it down. So after that, they're like, yeah, no more of that. So they could kind of see right then that like fluoride's not great for you, but they didn't. They chose to ignore that. There have been so many brain effects from fluoride. And this is probably the biggest thing that people are complaining about. All these other things, I feel like they're there, but they're not like as prominent as like the brain effects of fluoride. Over 400 studies have found that fluoride is a neurotoxin. And a neurotoxin is a chemical that can damage the brain. This research includes over 200 animal studies showing that prolonged exposure to varying levels of fluoride can damage the brain, particularly when coupled with iodine deficiency or aluminum excess. 74 human studies linking moderately high fluoride exposures with reduced intelligence, which we're going to get into a little bit later, that IQ issue, because this is a big problem. Over 60 animal studies reporting that mice or rats ingesting fluoride have an impaired capacity to learn and or remember. IQ issues again. 12 studies, 7 of them were human, 5 of them were animal, linking fluoride to neurobehavioral deficits, so impaired visual spatial organization.
Did you know that over 40% of Americans have a hard time swallowing pills? So when it's time to take your vitamins, large capsules and pills are out of the question. We know that gummy vitamins exist, but they're full of sugar, they get stuck in your teeth, and they only contain a fraction of the nutrients you need. Luckily, Easy Melts has discovered the ultimate vitamin sweet spot. Vitamins that melt in your mouth, taste like a treat, and are packed with nutrients ready for absorption, all without an ounce of sugar. For a limited time, Easy Melts is giving listeners a free 3-month supply of vitamin D3 with their first purchase. To claim your free D3 vitamins, visit try.easymelts.com/spring24. That's try.melts.com/spring24. Say goodbye to the old way of taking your vitamins and say hello to the easy way. Menopausal and perimenopausal women, listen up. It's time to take control of your health and comfort, and Winona is here to help. Winona is a telemedicine company for menopause care who believes that your symptoms are real, important, and deserve to be taken seriously. And for many women, this starts with hormone replacement therapy. Winona's HRT is made with plant-based, bioidentical hormones rather than synthetic ones, so it better aligns with your body to offer relief from hot flashes, weight gain, and other uncomfortable symptoms. 80% of women who use Winona find relief within just 90 days. So, what are you waiting for? Get started today. Visit buywinona.com today to start your free visit. With free shipping and the ability to pause or cancel at any time, your path to wellness has zero obligations. Use code SPRING24 at buywinona.com for 25% off your first treatment plan. That's BYWINONA.com for 25% off. Winona. Menopause care made easy.
3 human studies linking fluoride exposure with impaired fetal brain development. So that's like when a baby is in your womb. And here's another one about the baby being in your womb. So 9 mother-offspring studies linking certain levels of fluoride in the urine of pregnant women to reduce IQ in their offspring. If that doesn't scare you into not drinking fluoride or using fluoride while you're pregnant, I don't know what does. One of the biggest things I've seen is the IQ studies associated with fluoride. As I said, we're going to bring this up a couple times because it's, again, the biggest thing that keeps coming up. As of July 2022, 85 human studies have been conducted to investigate the relationship between fluoride and intelligence. Of these 85 studies, 76 of them, or about 89%, have reported that elevated fluoride is associated with lower IQ in humans. And also, the US government funded some of these studies, and then they were sued to release the data, which we'll get into later. I don't want to give away my ending before I get there. Cancer has been, may be one of the side effects of fluoride. So according to National Toxicology Program, fluoride is a mutagen or a compound that can cause genetic damage. So mutagen can likely cause or contribute to the development of cancer. So it's not saying it will 100% cause cancer. It's just saying that a mutagen can potentially cause genetic damage, which genetic damage can cause cancer. Cardiovascular disease. As it is, this is already the number 1 killer in our country. So why wouldn't fluoride play a part in it too? Fluoride can calcify parts of the body, and if calcium builds up in arteries, it can cause significant problems. So, some issues that have been associated with fluoride are hypertension, arterial calcifications, imagine that, arteriosclerosis, and mitochondrial damage. So, all these issues can come like from your heart. So, cool. So, and these things can all happen at the same time. It's not like you took a bunch of fluoride or like you're drinking fluoride and then you get a cardiovascular disease. You could have arthritis and IQ issues and a cardiovascular disease and diabetes potentially. So, fluoride has been shown to increase blood glucose levels and impair glucose tolerance. Impaired glucose tolerance has been found to occur in humans with fluoride intakes of only 0.07 to zero point 0.4 milligrams per kilogram per day. And this is a dose that can be reached in areas that fluoride is added to the water. So it's not like a crazy astronomical dose. Like, this is a totally reasonable dose, and we're going to get into that in a little while as well. Fluoride can be an endocrine disruptor. So the endocrine system secretes hormones in our body, and a study from 2006 by the National Research Council of the National Academies found that fluoride was positively identified as an endocrine disruptor. So this affects things like your thyroid, your pancreas, your pineal gland, which we are going to come back to in a little while, and your parathyroid gland. So all of these issues that you could be having in your endocrine system could be because you're ingesting too much fluoride. Gastrointestinal issues. So I've heard your gut called your second brain because of just like how sensitive it is and how much your GI tract affects your body. Well, ingesting fluoride causes a range of symptoms: nausea, pain, vomiting. The problem is they don't know exactly how much fluoride is causing these issues. So it could be just a small amount, like just your toothpaste. It could be like drinking it in your water. I don't know. It could be any number. They haven't really figured out exactly, is this nausea, pain, and vomiting first coming from fluoride, and exactly how much fluoride is going to cause this nausea, pain, and vomiting. But you could be hypersensitive, and hypersensitivity is a symptom. So I took this, I literally word for word right off their website because it made sense like this. I didn't need to rewrite it. Plus, there's already a quote in here, so I'm quoting a quote. So, some individuals are hypersensitive to fluoride. According to the physician's desk reference, quote, in hypersensitive individuals, fluorides occasionally cause skin eruptions such as atopic dermatitis, eczema, or hives. Gastric distress, headache, and weakness have also been reported. These hypersensitivity reactions usually disappear promptly after discontinuation of the fluoride. Like, you're having all these issues, stop using fluoride, and you immediately get better. Hypersensitive reactions have been reported for both topical fluorides, so like a toothpaste, and systematic fluorides, which is like fluoride in your water. So, if you're having any of these issues, maybe stop taking fluoride. The problem is, like, it's so not talked about that you could be having a number of issues and not even know that fluoride is the cause of it. It could literally be like, oh, I don't know why I'm having eczema. And then, like, eventually you just start drinking more bottled water than you do tap water, and then it gets better. I don't know. It could be a number of things. You could switch to the charcoal toothpaste instead of fluoride toothpaste, and then you get better, and you're like, oh, wow, like, I didn't know that. So, kidney disease is, I don't know if this is a direct result of fluoride or if fluoride is just causing more issues because of kidney declines. So, it didn't make it very clear on the website, but what I got from this was kidneys, they help to get rid of excess toxins in the body, which is just like the function of your kidney, by flushing them through your urine. Everyone knows that. Well, when kidney function declines because of age or disease, fluoride toxicity is likely to increase. So I think it's basically saying, like, the less your kidneys work, the more likely you are to get all these other issues. So male fertility has been called into question as well. So there's been over 100 studies that have been conducted to review sperm density in the U.S. from 1938 to 1996. These studies have found that sperm count has significantly decreased in North America and Europe since the 1940s. While it can't be determined that fluoride is the for sure cause of this issue, it also can't really be ruled out because that's about the time they started putting fluoride in water, although it wasn't widely put into water until after the 40s because it was just starting to get experimented on in Michigan. But if you remember back to the sunscreen episode, that is also like when sunscreen started getting popular in the 1940s. So it actually makes me wonder like how many things they started pushing on us to put in our bodies around that same time, especially things that are still common practice today, like fluoride, like sunscreen. What else? Because to me, yes, obviously sperm density is going down, but is that a problem from fluoride? Is it a problem from the sunscreens? It could be a number of things, right? So I wouldn't be quick to jump on the male fertility thing. But there's so many other issues that you're like, oh, okay, well, maybe fluoride's not causing me to have lower sperm count. I don't know. It could be a number of things. I'm not a doctor. So I told you that we would come back to this. So the pineal gland, for whatever reason, it attracts fluoride. And fluoride accumulates there at like super high levels. We don't know why. The pineal gland is located between your hemispheres of your brain and is responsible for synthesis and secretion of melatonin, which is your sleep hormone, if you didn't know. They are also contributing this to early puberty, especially in girls. So in a study conducted in New York, girls that lived in a community that fluoridated their water reached puberty like 5 months earlier than girls that lived in a community that didn't fluoridate their water. However, a lot of people think the pineal gland is our third eye. So, with decreased functionality of the gland, the likelihood is that you can't tap into your divine self, if you're trying to, if there is a lot of fluoride in your system. It's like they're trying to dumb us down. Pun intended, because fluoride is actually dumbing us down. So the pineal gland has been like, especially for people that are looking into their divine self and like looking into trying to understand more about themselves. This has been like the number one issue for those people. I think that there's so many issues here. I know that the IQ issue has been a huge topic when it comes to fluoride. There was a lawsuit, and the U.S. government was finally required to release the data that shows that there's a direct impact between fluoride use and children's IQs. Like, actually, they did the research, obviously using taxpayer dollars, and this information was just released on March 15th of 2023. Like, just required to release it. So they've known about it for years and years and years. This isn't like a new thing that they're just like, oh, wow, we had no idea. But they were just sued about it. There are ongoing lawsuits about stopping the fluoridation of our water. Obviously, it's not good for us. And people honestly should be able to choose if they want to ingest fluoride or not. It really shouldn't be the government like pushing it on us, like other things in the world, but we won't go there. Honestly, there has been like this charcoal toothpaste fad going on, and I was like, I don't see like, cool, you're turning your mouth black. Like, I don't see the point of this charcoal toothpaste. And then now, like, after doing this research, I'm like, yeah, it all makes sense. Of course, you'd want to use charcoal toothpaste instead of a fluoride toothpaste because it's way, way better for you. Maybe, I don't know. I guess I haven't done the research into charcoal yet. But know that kombucha is one of the leading sources of fluoride on the market. So a lot of people jumped on the health food bandwagon, and the government was like, oh, they're not getting, like, they're not drinking the tap water, so they're not getting all the fluoride that we're trying to put in their system. So they started putting it in kombucha because that's part of this like health food bandwagon. And a lot of people use it because it's really good for your gut, but it's one of the leading sources of fluoride on the market, like huge. Bottled water, however, which also it does have fluoride, but it may be better for you than tap water. So fresh surface water, like fresh water, you just go out and find it. It contains about 0.05 parts per meter, ppm, of fluoride, whereas artificially fluoridated water has about 0.7 to 1.2 ppm, which is quite a bit more. And like I said at the beginning, fluoride naturally occurs in rocks and soils, and it's a naturally occurring thing. So we're not going to completely get rid of it. But 0.05 is much better than 0.7 to 1.2. Bottled water contains about 0.11. So not as great as like fresh surface water, but way better than tap water. And less than 10% of bottled water contains more than 0.3 parts per meter of fluoride. Whereas again, your tap water has a minimum of 0.7. So even like the most fluoridated bottled water still isn't as bad for you as tap water. So when you're making the decision on what to drink, bottled water is going to be way better for you, especially if you live in an area that adds fluoride to your water. And consider changing your toothpaste, of course. And when you go to the dentist and they're like, oh, do you want a fluoride treatment? I would opt out of that. Obviously, do whatever is best for yourself and to protect your family and do what's best for you guys. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm just here to give you the evidence. And honestly, there's a lot of actual evidence here. This isn't just like stuff people made up, like some conspiracy theory. This is hard facts. There's been study after study after study done by like reputable places. Go to the fluorideaction.org, or excuse me, fluoridealert.org, the Fluoride Action Network. Fluoridealert.org. They have the lawsuits that they've put into place. They have all this information about what fluoride is good, like that it's not good for you. Everything that you could ever want to know about fluoride, and they've done the research and who's done each of the studies that they've looked into and what is actually going on. So if you want to learn more about fluoride, for sure go there. Thank you so much, Krista, for suggesting this episode. It's been fantastic. I really appreciate it. And until next week, my friends, stay skeptical, and I will see you all later. Hey friends, The Rabbit Hole is an independent podcast with everything you hear done by me, Danny Mercy. I appreciate all of your support. Please rate and review wherever you're listening. If you want to follow us on Instagram, it's at rabbit.holepodcast. And thank you, Zakar Balaha, for our awesome intro.